Hey Team 8231 here, just a video showing you the removal of a 722.6 transmission from my E55 AMG, and we've literally just been doing the airmatic suspension on it. So I'm not going to go into detail about taking the exhaust out or anything. It's really just a little video just to show you guys pulling out the gearbox and just some of the steps around that. And hopefully you find it useful. Hopefully there's some stuff in there that you can use, but we'll just get straight into it. Right, so we've got the rear propeller shaft removed. You're going to have to remove that with the flex disc attached to the propeller shaft. So basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to jack up the engine using a transmission jack or something similar if you're working on the ground, and take this whole cross member out, support the gearbox, and then you'll be able to get a correct size Torx bit and a what do you call it? A wrench behind the these bolts here, which are the main bolts. I think they're like a 16 maybe. Don't quote me off that. They're not massive though. They're not too bad. Then you're obviously going to have to take the exhaust out too. So we're going to have to drop out the exhaust manifold. Or sorry, the downpipes basically with the cats attached, which I've already done, as you can see down on the floor there. We have those sitting there with the cats, the O2 sensors attached. Then that's going to give us the room we need to get in to do what we need to do here. So our first step is I've just removed the little cross brace that attaches at the back here, and that holds the exhausts in place. It's this little black bracket. There's two 13mm bolts hanging off it. Take that out, set that aside, and then what we're going to do is get up into this gap here and remove that clip there, and also remove the clip that holds the selector in place. Then we're going to replace the rubber gaskets on that, so we've got nice new rubber bushings on that, so we've got nice new ones because they'll be getting a little bit old now. And then we're going to basically go through and undo the main connector here. We're going to take this little shield off, unplug that, and then we're going to undo the ground here as well before we start cracking the cooler lines and draining the gearbox fluid. Cool, so we'll just get into doing that now. Basically, team, we just want to get the little clip pushed off of the little retainer clip pushed off of the selector. So I'm just using a tool here to try and catch it and move it off. It can be a little bit of a bastard. I've done it before on the 210 E55, and we did get there in the end. Just use a bit of a flat head here, team, instead. Might even put a bit of CRC in there, a bit of WD-40 maybe. Oh, I forgot one thing, you've got to actually lever that bottom part. Sorry, I forgot about that. We'll just push it with our finger. We want to get that little bottom part over the lip. We don't want it to slip below it like it's currently doing. There we go. Cool. There we go, team. So just give it a bit more of a nudge, and it should just pop off like that. Pull that out. There we go. Cool. That's better. Now you do want to be a little bit careful because, you know, obviously here, you've got the lip on it. I keep referring to my iPhone being useless at this job. See, it's got the little flap here, that flap in the middle there. So you got to push that up to lift it over that head. And you want to replace these apparently. I don't normally replace them, but I've read that you should replace them, so I've just bought some new ones of these anyway. Cool. Now what we're going to do is move to the back connection on the gear shifter. If you look at the first off, team, the movement. Okay, this is where you want to replace the bushings. Look at that. Mine's not making any noise yet actually, but it's going to be so much nicer when it's replaced. If we just grab some very small pliers, we might try that first, and just grab it by the bottom here. There we go. Cool. That worked fine. So we've got this little guy here. wait for the thing to focus on my actual hand, or is it not going to do that? No, it's a useless iPhone. Don't buy an iPhone. Still can't focus on my hand? Great, well, you get the idea. So now that we've got that off, team, we're going to just gently, like literally no effort, like the easiest part of this whole job. You just pull it off its mount, and also the same on the Selector. So we've got the Selector off, team. This is how it looks. Again, my iPhone can't focus to save its life. So yeah, that's that, right? So we don't really need to do anything with this, to be honest. We just need to put it down here. What we might have to do later is once we've dropped the gearbox out, we'll replace the the shifter selector bushing there, and also up here where we've got our existing setup, you can just gently pull out the existing one like that. I will say though, it is actually a bit bizarre. This one's just like a plastic nothing. There's no actual like bushing on it. No sort of soft bushy bit, which is weird. Oh, there it is. I was gonna say, I thought so. You can just see it, guys, mounted in there. So to get that out, I can just sort of pry it out with my finger, but there we go. Perfect. So I can just pry it out like that. I've got a brand new one of those. My only dilemma is going to be when I actually need to put the new one in. How easy is that going to be? This is the part number 203267122. Just FYI. So that's our old one. We'll just put that on that for now and put that with that. That's our clip we're going to replace, and we'll just put it with the Selector. And yeah, when the gearbox is out of the car, we'll put the bushing onto the Selector that attaches to the actual Selector on the transmission. Cool, so we've done that. Now we're going to dismantle this piece here, take the cover off and unplug it. Right team, so we're going to take this off. I've got a T30 Torx bit. Now just make sure you get the right one. You're getting the one here that's got the screw attached to it. So we'll just break that. Crikey. That was a little bit tight. I don't know who made it so tight originally. And then we've got the same up the top. But this one up the top, you don't really have to undo it, to be honest. It is actually just held in there by like a little bit of a retaining clip from memory, we'll find out. So we don't actually necessarily have to worry about that. But what we'll do is we'll get that down there. Cool. This should just slide out. Yeah, there we go, cool. So I'll put that down again. Don't lose the parts. And now we've got access to our transmission connector, so just gently, very gently, twist this and you'll see the harness starts to back out. Now, then you can just pull it gently like that as well. And my harness is pretty good. There's not much oil in there. There's a little bit of dampness on the corner there actually, which is interesting. We might just check this torque when we put it back together. But as part of this job, we're actually going to take the conductor plate out and replace it at the same time. So just grab that there. Just clean it for good measure. I'll just wipe that dry gently. Just be careful of that O-ring on the harness team. Cool. And I'm just going to slot that into a bag and possibly zip. Yeah, I'll just chuck a zip tie around there. And then we're just making sure to keep any minor damages or debris out of the system here, like that. Cool. Measure, guys, what that is, so you know what size that is. I'm gonna guess it's a E14. Possibly smaller than that. Don't want to round it off. An E12. Yeah, it's better. I'm not actually a professional mechanic, just FYI. I'm doing this DIY like probably some of you are, so don't get too concerned. Oh, now as I've done that, you can see it's sort of twisted the ground with it. So just, there we go, just sort of counter hold it, just so you don't pull it, strip anything. So we're going to take this off as well, guys, and we're going to probably just clean. We might actually spray this whole ground cable with electric cleaner as well, since it is a ground cable. So that's our ground cable off. Obviously, make sure before you do any of this that your battery is unplugged. Before you do any of that, guys. And what we're going to do while we're here, you probably won't on your car, but I've already gone through the process of disconnecting the O2 sensors out of their harnesses here. But what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, I'm just going to undo the O2 sensor mounting brackets as well, just to ensure that they are out of the way, because at the moment they're not going to let the transmission drop past them when we get to pulling it out. Now this O2 sensor is not ideal hanging here, because it's going to scratch and rip its rubber seals like that, which is not good. But never mind, we're nearly there. It'll survive a little bit. So I'm going to pull those out, guys. And what we're going to also do is just use electrical contact cleaner on all of this before we put it back together, because we don't want engine oil leaking from the rear main seal sitting where it's currently sitting. Let's just speed this up. If you have electric power tools, use them. There we go, that's a lot quicker. There we go, guys, so I'll take that out. We'll give that all a clean before we put it back together again. But now we've got our sort of clear area here. Yeah, just looking at it, now we're ready to start sort of emptying the what do you call it? The oil pan. But I'm also thinking we might have to just be aware of these connectors here connecting to the transmission, to the radiator. There is a bracket over here that you can see that houses the two cooler lines for the transmission. So we should just be able to probably break that off. And that'll free us up. I just don't know if I'm going to have enough sort of freedom to pull this back without bending one of the cooler pipes, which is definitely not what we want to do. So we'll just have to bear that in mind. Cool, team. So now we're going to drain the oil out of the pan. So we've got this tool here. We're going to keep the little plastic caps in there. I want to see what quality the oil, condition the oil is in. Cool, let's go. Yeah, a little bit dirty, not spotless. We'll have a look at it closer once it's finished. Cool, so while that finishes draining, we'll take this little cap off that covers the main housing where we can undo the flywheel into here. So put this down and start slowly twisting the motor and undoing those bolts. Yeah, right here. What's making that noise? I suppose because there's not much
Not much hold it now.
Yeah. Keep going. Oh.
Was that it?
Oh, it's only 3. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Just what's rattling.
Yeah, right. What way are you tuning it? That's it. Nice.
Oh, you got another friend here.
So I've just undone these Torx bits, bolts here, and there's one right at the top that attaches the transmission filler tube, which is a bit of a bitch to get to, but if you undo this one here and pull it out, it gives you a bit more leverage to get a ratchet up in there. And then obviously to get these coil lines free, you have to sort of unbolt the little brackets from there and up in here. Just about there, that sits in there. And then aside from that, putting the weight on the jack, taking the cross member off, and then pulling these out, which Nick's doing, then we're all good to go. So let's get going. So folks, we've got the transmission out of the E55, and yeah, it's a little bit tricky. It's the second gearbox I've ever pulled out of a car. The first one was a Subaru Outback. Similar concept, probably the Subaru was just slightly easier. So what we're going to do now, team, is see there's our old shifter bushing. It's pretty toast. Yeah, it's munted. Yeah, look, it's probably going to crumble in my hands. Look at that. Yeah, that's no good. So we've got a new one of those. I'll just show you. In fact, we'll grab our... we'll leave that there actually. It's our new rear main seal. We'll just grab those. There was that there. There it is. And that. Those are our new bushings. So that's the one for the for the connection here, and then we've got our actual shifter up here, and that goes on there. I'm going to try my best to just install it in situ, but yeah, like I said earlier, team, remember we've got these clips. This one broke, so that's a brand new one there. This one looks fine, but in saying that, like, I don't really want to waste new parts just cause, like, I could obviously replace all of them, but if I can avoid it, if we just inspect it a bit closer, yeah, it doesn't look bad to me. There's no real obvious cracks or fatigue marks on it, but again, it's something you don't want to have to do later on. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So we've got our flywheel here. We need to take this off. We've got these nuts. How many have we got? We've got 8 of them. So we're going to pull those off, and because I don't have the special Mercedes tool to remove them, what I'm going to do is insert a nut through here that's long enough to then touch against the little access port at the back here to hold it in place. So the transmission's going this way, which is counterclockwise, but it's actually clockwise on the front end, which is okay to rotate the engine that way. Obviously you don't want to turn the engine the wrong way. So that's all good. So what we're going to do now is put a bolt in there and then undo these nuts, these 8 nuts, replace them, and by the looks of it, I assume that there marks the position of the flywheel, so I probably didn't have to mark it with my green paint pen, but that's all good. But yeah, we'll pull that off and then we've got access to the cover. So guys, we've got a TX55 bit. I'll crack the first one. Second one. I think that's all in. Engine clean out of the engine bay. This little washer comes off separate. Yeah. Actually, we probably won't need a pry bar team. We'll just gently wiggle her off. Cool. Perfect. Yeah, so we don't need to necessarily mark the alignment or anything because it's already got a dowel, as I just said, on it. So there's our flywheel, and the washer in the middle here is separate, but just keep it together, and I might just wrap it up in a bit of cloth just to protect it. Cool, let's go. Right, the part we've all been waiting for. So there's our rear main seal. So you can just see it slipped in here. Just sitting in there like that. And then we've got this plate that's got all these little bolts going around the edge. Oh, there's our crankshaft sensor. Cool, okay. That makes sense, obviously. So the crankshaft sensor's there, which is something you should replace on these engines. There's our starter motor there as well, with the little gear that locks up when it goes to engage. But yeah, so if we look at the timestamp, 0407 or 01 maybe, so that is the original plate. And it's actually interesting, guys, there's quite a lot of like corrosion on it, if you can see there, which is interesting. Yeah, so what we'll do, I don't have the right sealant removers yet, so what we're going to do anyway is we're just going to start taking these nuts off, and then we'll just start prying at, I think it's this point here, and under that point there, prying it off gently. Just one thing, team, these bolts here and these two bolts here, don't miss those, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So yeah, I'm going to pull that off now, guys. I'm just going to probably skip videoing it just because I'm running out of memory, but we'll get that pulled off. So guys, we're taking the rear main seal bolts out. I've just marked it on a piece of cardboard like I did for the the bell housing connection. As you can see, they're actually pretty much all the same height apart from the bottom two vertical ones. So maybe you don't have to do that, but just good practice anyway. So those are all out now. Very lightly torqued. They're like literally just crack them gently with your hand without any effort at all. So now what we're going to do is just slowly pry this off. Right, folks, so this is the rear main seal, I guess, assembly. It's pretty toast. It's pretty cooked. You can see how dirty it is and the oil sitting at the bottom there. And it's been sort of like corroding or something. I guess it's quite light. I don't know if it's aluminium or magnesium maybe as well. I'm not sure. But yeah, it came off actually pretty easy. So I just used two tools. This worked the best, this sort of tool. I just gently got in there and just pried it off. But this worked good as well. It's just got less leverage. But I've only got one, so I just used that and alternated. And cracked it from the top first. So the top came off like that, and then I got a plastic wedge and just wedged gently in between here and cracked the rest of the bottom seal. So basically I use this here, just a plastic wedge. Anything soft, don't use metal on that surface because that's where it mates. So here's the magnificent crankshaft here. There's our main bearings, big beautiful main bearings. You probably can't see through there, but that's leading into the actual, well, there's the mounting bolts for the main bearings. There's the old cranky through there. Can you see what's through that hole there? Probably not. I think that's like an oil passage. I might be wrong. But there's our, yeah, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the engine through that gap there. So yeah, what we're going to do now is, I'm not sure of the best way to do it, but what I'm going to do, just thinking off my feet, is I'm just going to cut very small bits of material and just put them in there. Obviously not too small that they bloody fall in there or anything, but just put a bit of cloth in there, just block up those main channels basically, including just putting a bit down along here, and then I'm going to slowly use some sealant remover and start scraping all these old gaskets off. We don't want it all falling into the engine bay, into the oil pan area, so we'll just gently pry that off. I'm probably not worried about these holes here. It's just more this bottom rail and maybe those top two holes I'll cover up. So rule of thumb, guys, here is buy a new rear plate. That one's toast. That rear plate is toast. Originally I just bought the seal here, but just looking at that one there, it's very clear to me that, you know, if you want a nice brand new one that's not corroding like this one is here. So buy both. They're inexpensive, thankfully, for what the car is. So yeah, okay. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go down the road and get some bits, and we'll start tidying this up, and we'll check back shortly. Cheers. Moving the that stuff on the ground, guys, actually is from an E63, a W211. I bought from a guy wrecking. Beautiful rear E63 seats, full set, as well as the rear blind, a random fuel pump for an E63, and the carpets. So I just moved that out of the way. It's been sitting there for like a month. This car hasn't been driven in ages. So we'll take it for a spin down to the shop to get some new gasket sealer. There's other videos on this car, team, if you want to go watch them. I'll just get into this car's been leaking quite a bit of oil and a bit of coolant. So I actually haven't driven her or serviced her yet because, you know, I want to get it fixed, and I think it's something to do with, there's several oil leaks on this car, team. We're going to video it and fix it, drop the engine out, and 8.1, that's fine, we'll start her up. Actually, I might just check the, we'll just check the coolant. Just because it's leaking a bit of coolant too, and I've already done a few seals on it. This car's a great car, guys. It's just, this is sort of the one only major thing it's really given me heck on. Coolant's okay. It's down a little bit. It's definitely leaking it very slowly. That'll be fine. But we're just going down the road. Just as I put my camera down, guys, I flip and smash the bloody the Mercedes logo off. Oh, that's a shame. Otherwise this engine bay actually looked real mint. But it was a bit fried anyway, so we've got the badge in the car. That will be another video or another fix. We can clean that up and refix it properly and glue it on. Cool, so we're good to start her up. I'll give you a bit of an exhaust clip while we turn her on. Sounds good, eh? She's smoking a bit. Take it for a little drive. There's something, guys, about an S-Class that you just can't, you know, you can't beat. It's such a lovely, quiet car to cruise around in. Big V12, no one even knows about it, unless you put your foot down. We've got our gasket stripper though, and our RTV, JB Weld. I would have liked to have bought like Loctite, but or the Mercedes genuine sealer, but it's just so expensive and hard to get hold of. And I think looking at the reviews, it seems to be pretty good quality to me. Won't give it too much gas, but the old V12 that's just half throttle, obviously, guys. It can really kick ass, but I don't really want to push it while it's got a bit of an oil leak. But it just glides along. I recently chucked a new rear pulsation a rear accumulator in the back axle, and it's just rides so smooth. It's the smoothest car out of, you know, anything we've got or ever driven, really. Cool. We get to get back to work and get that new rear main seal installed and put back together again. So, team, we've got the new seal here ready to go. The new the new cover. So we're going to put our seal around this end. So it sort of goes around mostly the perimeter, as well as these two bolts here, and along the bottom, and cuts down. So we're going to put that on, and then we've got about 10 minutes to get the thing torqued down to 10 Newton meters in the back of the engine. So we're going to do that right now. I can't video it, sorry, because the diagram's on my phone for putting the gasket on, so I need to follow it. So I'll just show you once we have it in place. Hopefully all goes well. So team, we've got the seal back in place. So you can see here, once we've torqued everything up, it's just brought a bit of a extra gasket sticking out the sides, a little bit around there. To be honest, it's really just that one side. There's a little bit there, which is okay. I'll just leave it there. When I pulled it off, it was actually very similar, so that's all good. We've torqued all these down to 10 Newton meters and just marked them as we went. So all our bolts are torqued, and we've got our 2 bolts there torqued as well, these long guys here. And once you've sort of tightened these top ones, when you tighten these bottom ones, you'll see it'll actually, yeah, it'll still close down and stretch and spew the gasket out the side gently. So obviously it sort of just very, very slightly stretches to suck it down into the bottom there. So I'm pretty happy with how that's gone in. My gasketing was pretty good considering it was just using the default tube. What I did, because it's cold here, and I think what is a good idea in general, is I got a little container, filled it up with hot water, and then I got the gasket tube, the Loctite gasket maker, and put the tube in the hot water, or very warm water, and that basically just warms it all up a little bit to make it a little bit softer, so it comes out more in like a line rather than rather than that sort of little line dot, that sort of dribbly format. So the problem is once I actually got around most of the seal, it was a bit cooler, so it was starting to go a little bit hard again, the stuff coming out of the tube. But anyway, it's in place. I'm pretty happy with it. You want to keep that bead about 2 millimeters in width. So mine probably varied between 2 millimeters and possibly 3 in some parts just by accident, but they weren't in areas that were going to clog up any oil passages or things like that. So I'm pretty happy with what we've done. Now we're going to put the seal in, but before we put the seal in, we need the tool. And the tool's not here yet. It's going to be here next week. So this has literally been a job that's been over a month now sitting here because I haven't really been prepared with the right tools. But anyway, I know what the deal is now, so we're all good to go next week. Get that seal driven in here. Drive that seal in around the edge, and we can put this bloody gearbox, this flywheel back on and the gearbox back on and get it all wrapped up so we can start getting this thing finished to put it back on the road, because I'm honestly eager to drive it, and I've been relegated to the C55 and the E55 210 for the last like 6-7 weeks now. Anyway, let's get into it. So team, update, finally received the rear main seal install kit from China. Anyway, it's from this place. Hopefully it works, but basically we need to attach, I think it's this one, to the rear, the crankshaft, and then this slips over the top. No, it doesn't. It must be this one. This goes on, sorry. And then we bolt it to the crankshaft, and then this sits on top, and it drives the seal in using this bolt that tightens and pushes it into the seal. So I'm flipping happy we've got it, because it's just been such a long time coming. This car's been on the hoist for like 6 weeks. Originally just for the suspension, but now it's, I've taken it a bit further than that. So there's our seal, okay. We've installed the new plate. So it's all nice and dry now. I did that on Saturday. Torqued it all to 10 Newton meters, marked them all off. So we're gonna put that black thing on, and then we're gonna sit this over the top. Then we can start pressing it into place. Thank God. I'm excited. I'm making some progress now. So let's do this, and hopefully I don't cock it up, because I don't think I've got it on video, but I've already purchased, this is my second plate and rear main seal. The first one I did it out of the car, and I was trying to hammer the seal in. Then I realized it was going to be basically impossible to get the seal over this without smearing all the silicone RTV when installing it again, so I basically bought a brand new. 1 hour later, okay, I didn't video it because I would have had some real choice words that would probably get me banned off YouTube. But I'll just show you guys our little kit here. So we've got this that goes over the crankshaft, right? Over the crankshaft, like mount or whatever you want to call it. See? Slips over that. You might already be able to see it. But this, you know, and hey, it's my fault at the end of the day for buying cheap Chinese crap. I'm not trying to be rude to anyone, obviously, but you know, Chinese stuff's usually not that good, but it's a lot cheaper. You know, this tool was supposed to be $500 from like an Australian company, and this was and this was about $220 from China. So yeah, basically this here, see this hole? It was, you can see on the left-hand side, it's quite small. Well, it was that the whole way across. Now that didn't actually fit. So the actual tool here wouldn't fit over that little dowel that sticks out. So it wouldn't go on and flush in against it. So I've had to spend about an hour plus about $30 buying a special metal drill bit to bore that out so that that dowel fits over it, so that this goes on flush, which it does now, thank goodness, because I was worried that this hole here, you can see in here guys, this hole was going to be too small and not go over this lip. I was thinking, oh, now I'm going to need someone to route out this inner hole by 1 millimeter or 2. But thankfully they didn't screw the tool up fully, and it does actually just clip on like that. Cool. Line our holes up. I've just wiped off as much of the metal leftovers as I can, hence why I'm wearing glasses so I don't get metal in my eyes. And then I should be able to put these screws in like that. You know, yeah, I don't like buying Chinese products usually just because of the fact of this example here, but hey, if I'm going to be a cheapskate, can't expect it to be perfect. Cool, so that's on now. I'll just tighten them slightly, and we've got the dowel over there, so now we can stick the seal over the top of that and then drive it in with this, or this, one of them, I don't know, I'll find it out. And then that goes over the top, and this screws in to that plate in here, right? So I might just try it now. Again, I'm not going to do it on camera, team. There's just not enough room here, and I don't have the patience just right now, but I'll just try and install that seal. So we're going to take it out of the packet, loop it over the top of this, and then this goes on top, and it pushes the seal into place. Wish me luck. What I've done is I've taken the taken this back off the crankshaft and put it here, and then I've basically pressed the seal off of its sort of bracket that it comes in the bag on onto the plate here. Now I can take this and mount this onto the crankshaft, and then I can start pushing it on. It just makes it a little bit easier, guys, than actually doing it while it's on the car itself. Just makes it easy to slip on while I'm doing it here on the bench. So yeah, that's the way I've done it. So now we're going to put it on and just gently crank it on. Right, so we've got the seal, the press bracket on, team, and as you can see, it perfectly lines up around the seal there. So that's the seal right there. I might just give it a quick final wipe with microfiber just to make sure there's no particles on it or anything. And basically we're going to tighten up this bolt and press it on. Let's go. Right, team, so just pulled the press off. Now the press sort of gets stuck in there quite well, so you actually have to put two of the old bolts from the flywheel onto this, and it actually pushes the press off. The press is sort of stuck on there, you can't really just pull it off, but I've got it off now anyway. And you can see here it's perfectly flush, not flush, it's perfectly seated the whole way around, about 1 millimeter in further than the face, which is great. So yeah, we can take this off now, and we have our flippin' rear main seal done. put it to bed, finally. It's been like a month. So the tool worked in the end. I just had to do a lot of boring and DIY to make it fit. So maybe buy a different tool that's not Chinese. Yeah, anyway, let's continue. I'm a happy man. Finally, we have the correct bolts. This is the part number, team. 00499903212. These are the correct bolts for the flywheel. They're a bit longer. The ones I've bought were slightly shorter. They're apparently for the where I guess it's not on this flywheel, but like where the starter ring attaches around the edges here. And saying that, this one's got none of that. It must be like welded on or something. It looks like there was something there before though, doesn't it? Anyway, that's fine. So we need to install this back in the car, which we can finally do now. Where our fresh, well installed rear main seal is, with the kit that we had to wait for as well. This part of the process has just been a nightmare. So I'm just going to wipe that surface, remount this, and get our bolts in and get this sucker secured, and we'll start putting the car back together. So team, we've got 8 of these specific screws that we want to put on the onto the crankshaft here that hold this plate in place. Just like so. We'll torque them down to 45 Newton meters and then a 90-degree turn on each of them. Now I don't have a specific locking tool for this engine at this stage. So to do that, we're going to have to either put something between the engine here and the little housing to like sort of jam it in place, or I might put one of the bolts back into here from the bell housing of the transmission and see if I can leverage maybe something in here. Like I've seen someone use a wrench, I think, to like sort of hold it in place, so we'll try that as well. Perfect, let's torque them down. So team, our flywheel bolts are back in place and all torqued down. So I basically put a line, paint line, horizontal, and then 90 degrees, obviously we just turned the bolt to, all the green dots were facing down. Obviously it's not exact, but it's pretty bloody close, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, we're good to go, we're good to put the gearbox in. I've got this little tool I made that I got inspired by from someone else who did the same thing on their E55, so you don't need the fancy tool that sort of prongs through, I think. I don't know where it goes, to be honest, but it sort of prongs through and locks the teeth in. I've just done it on here, and I've put a big washer in and a screw through, just so it doesn't put too much pressure on the flywheel. So yeah, just using a standard wrench, opening wrench, like that. So yeah, just do that yourself if you can, or if you've got the tool, that's even better. But I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to put all the bits and pieces back together. Just a reminder that the engine spins this way, so counterclockwise from this end, and from the front here it spins clockwise, so make sure it doesn't turn the other way. Regardless though, you need to lock it in place so you can torque these, because these are flippin' hard to torque, like actually real hard, way harder than I thought. 45 Newton meters is easy, but then you got to do 90 degrees, and that was so tough. You got to have a lot of muscle to get through those 8. So yeah, but we're all done now, so I'm grateful nothing's broken or anything. And yeah, we're going to get the gearbox put back in, so I'll be back shortly. So team, she's ready to go back into the car now. Lined her up as straight as we can. Also just given, it's dirty again. Just giving it a little bit of a clean because it was sort of quite black along here. It's still definitely far from perfect, but that's all right. So what I've also done is got the new dipstick O-ring installed on our filler tube. Just a little O-ring at the end of that there. And I've also pre-attached our new shifter linkage. I've reattached it here so that when it's up in the car, I don't have to do it in the car. And this will just simply clip onto our shifter here, which already has a brand new bushing on it. And that bushing is, and the little retainer clips, that little one there for that. I don't know if you have to replace that one, but I've replaced this one because apparently you're supposed to use a brand new one. So I've got a brand new clip on there. But yeah, I'm just going to start raising her up and then put her back in. Let's continue. So team, we finally have the gearbox back in the car. So what we've done is we've installed, as mentioned, the oil filler pipe. Just need to make sure we tighten the little bracket down that holds it in place. Let me get a torch because this phone's got real bad dark light functionality. There we go, so I need to tighten that up. We need to make sure we tighten up the ground before we put any power to anything. So we've done that. Now we need to install our cooler lines. So I've got those there. And same on this side, up just behind this one here. Might not be able to see it, there's my little red rag in there. So we're going to put those in now. And with those, obviously they've got their respective little sort of bolts. I think they're called banjo bolts from memory, I might be wrong. Yeah, because they attach through the holes there on the oil feed. So we'll torque those down. And then what we need to do is also check our shifter linkage, which I've put back in place. So that's in place there. And then it's already attached, as I showed you before we put the gearbox into the car there. We've also put the cross member back in and just loosely tightened it, so that's good. So apart from those cooler lines, we've nearly got the gearbox all hooked up again really. Everything's good to go back in. We are going to do the conductor plate, so we're not going to plug the main harness back in yet. We're going to drop the pad in and change some of the valves from the Sonex kit that I bought. Yeah, so I'll put the oil lines in and get that finished now. So team, good progress. Cooler lines are back in, just going to torque them down now with brand new washers, one on each side. Same with this one here, brand new washers on each side. We've got our clips that retain the cooler lines in place. We're just going to tighten up this one here. But there's one down here a little bit. That one there, so that's in place. And then one up there, that's in place. And then I'm just going to reattach this and just give it a bit of a clean, just a bit of a brake clean. I've given this part here a bit of a clean, so there's very little oil and dirt build up now, whereas obviously when we took this all off it was just sort of caked in oil all under here. So it's nice and clean now, and then we're ready to put back our exhaust system and everything, and fill up the transmission oil. Continue on now with tightening up a few more bolts here, and then we'll probably get on to installing the drive shaft. I think that'll be our next task here. Once we've torqued up these bolts, getting the drive shaft in. Once the drive shaft's in, then I'll probably move on to doing over there. I'll move on to taking the pan off, and we'll swap out the conductor plate with a brand new one and put our new Sonex valves in. We've got the drive shaft back in, team. Just torquing these now. We'll torque these bolts down. There's 8 in total. They're M12 bolts, so they need to be torqued to 60 Newton meters. And just while I'm at it, sorry, these bolts here that attach the cooler lines, they are 5 Newton meters, which is a weird number. It's a very light torque, and then 90-degree turns. So I've done that on both of those. So yeah, we've put a nice new rubber sleeve where the pinions or the splines are on the shafts. And at the same time, I've also put some grease in. You need to put, it's very standard grease, I think. It's NLGI2 grease, basically in the little hole that's in the shaft here and on the splines of this part of the drive shaft. I don't know if you have to do it on this one as well, but I've done it anyway. So there's a little shaft, like a mini one in there, that joins onto the diff flange. And yeah, so obviously we've marked everything at the start of this video project, which was like 7 weeks ago now, because I screwed up everything. Well, just ordering stuff. And yes, so it's all lined up nicely. Same with the drive shaft here. Just make sure you mark it all, team, otherwise you're going to have possible driveline vibrations later on. There also was the drive shaft center bearing here. I actually bought a bearing, but I realized you also need this, you actually need the whole piece, which includes like a rubber sort of bushing that holds the bearing in the center. My one's not torn up or ripped or anything, so I'm just going to leave it and hopefully it's fine. I never had any issues with driveline vibration, so we should be good. But yeah, we're going to torque this up now, then I'm going to go get a coffee, and then I'm going to come back and we're probably going to work on, you'll find out in a few seconds, either the getting the SBC system bled, so bringing the car down and just bleeding the SBC and putting our new batteries in that we've got, and or we're going to maybe pull out the conductor plate, or the valve body, and replace some of the valves, which is going to be exciting. So stay tuned and let's continue.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Just before we get into that, team, I'm going to actually just put a bit of gas in the car. She hasn't had any gas since, well, for months now, and it's probably about time she got some in here. So I've got some fresh 98, which is I guess equivalent to 93 if you're in the USA. So we'll chuck some of that in here now, and smells good. The first battery we're replacing in the E55 team is the SBC battery. So this car came with this one, which looks pretty darn old to me. So there's this battery here, which is, yeah, the SBC one. And yeah, we've bought a brand new genuine Mercedes, which is probably a Vata battery right here to put in, get rid of this random brand I've never heard of before. And yeah, chuck this sucker in. So we'll pull that out now, and we'll give just the area a little bit of a clean up, and we'll install our new battery at the front. We'll probably just leave the negative off for now until I have the gearbox connected and ready to go and we can bleed the SBC system. So let's pull that out. So team, old battery out. I don't know, it's random. I don't know how old it is. There's no real timestamps anywhere, and the mounting hardware is very weird. That looked like a timestamp to me there, maybe 2015, 25th of February 2015. That's the only thing I can guess. That's alright. So we've put a new battery in. We're going to grab this as well. So new battery's in place. Look at that, nice Mercedes star on it, genuine battery. Also clean this all up a little bit, clean this random pipe. Who knows what that pipe is? I don't have a clue what it is. It could just be a drain for the water possibly, that's what I'm thinking from the little drain there. Cleaned up, there was like some mold build up in here, so I've cleaned all that out. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. Cleaned all of the tank, made it all nice and clean again, nice and white. Yeah, so it's pretty good. Now another tip that I learnt from Tassos, if you guys watch Tassos, the Mercedes genius, he date stamps his batteries, or he likes to see dates on them, so I guess I sort of got inspired by that to make sure I do that as well. So I'm going to write a date on there somewhere. I probably should have put it on before I put the battery in the car. So there's a tip, if you're going to put a date on it, do it while it's out of the car, because now it's a bit tricky. I'm going to just try and sneak it over the back here. So we'll put that on now, and then we'll move to the back battery. Let's go. So team, battery goes in there, around the strap. There's a little retainer clamp here, which bolts onto the side. So we've got our brand new Mercedes genuine battery. Now, just the thing, this genuine Mercedes battery was cheaper to buy than a Vata OEM battery. Well, basically the same battery that was a Mercedes one. So this is like $100 cheaper. I don't know how. Oh, there you go, Vata, yeah. I don't know how, but yeah. So maybe just ask your dealer. I'm in New Zealand, obviously, so it might be different for us. But usually anything genuine's double the price, so this is good. And as I said before, we'll put our date on it. As you can see though here, it already has a date 45 of 21. I'll just put 22.08, bad handwriting, 22.08 when it was installed. So the battery's pretty much from like November 2021, so yeah, so we'll install that now and do up all the bolts. Batteries in, team, batteries in. We're going to leave the negative off. I just want to finish the gearbox first, and then we'll plug it in when we're ready to start bleeding the brake system. So both batteries are unplugged at this stage, but they're installed and ready to go. Perfect, let's continue. Keep forgetting, team, before we actually start on the brakes and the transmission, which are the two largest things to finish, I want to do the engine mounts, because we've got our exhaust downpipes taken out on each side. We want to put our new engine mounts in because it's easy to get to them, right? Okay. So we're going to jack the motor. We're going to jack the motor up just gently, probably from here, from this part here. I've got a big slab of wood. I possibly should have done it maybe. No, it's right. No, we'll do it from there. You are supposed to lift the motor from the top apparently on these cars, but I highly doubt many people actually do that. If we just have enough surface spread here and give us enough height to lift these brackets off the mounts so we can put our new ones in, bearing in mind the new ones might be slightly higher. These aren't rubbish mounts, they're still actually fine. So they haven't fully deflated, I don't think. We'll find out. But yeah, we'll jack off the motor here gently, and before we do that, you want to also make sure your transmission mount's unbolted so that the whole thing can sort of lift up. Whereas if you tie it down to here, you're putting unnecessary strain on the drivetrain components. Now to get the top of the nut off, there's a nut on the top of these things here. It's a 16 mil, and what I've got is a flare wrench. Usually you use these on like pneumatic lines or hydraulic lines where you want to put it between a pipe, for example, and undo it. There is a proper tool to do these, to take off these mounts, but I don't have that. I've just got this, you know, it was like a $20 set of flare wrenches. So if you just get that, it's not too big. This one here, you basically get your hand up in there and you can just get enough leverage to break the nut, to crack the nut. Same on this side. You can probably on this side go in from here actually. I just found on this side it was a bit harder going in this way. So whatever works, but yeah, this will do it. You just need a bit of muscle to get it done, and I'm not necessarily a muscly guy at all, so but I was able to get it out. So what we'll do now is just remove the rest of the covers on these mounts. I didn't think my engine mounts were that bad, team, but if you look at this, old and new, that one is quite a lot higher, probably by like half a centimetre, probably 5mm, or I guess a flippin', I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. So I guess it is probably time they're due to be replaced. These ones are from 2016, so they're not too old. Yeah, 16 weeks, 17. So yeah. Interesting though, like this one here is nice and clean on the top, whereas this one's quite rusty, so I don't know what's happening there. What we're going to do though is we're going to keep these anyway, because, oh, wait a minute, that's the new one, duh. What we're going to do though is we're going to keep these and just have them as backup, so if we ever get a project 211 or anything with a 113 really, I think these fit pretty much. We've got some spare engine mounts that are still, you know, these aren't leaking or anything, they're still okay to use. So that's cool, so we'll start putting them back in again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, mounts are installed, shield installed back on top. That protects it from the exhaust system, and also the little rubber cover. Same on the other side here. Torqued at the bottom here. These nuts here, torqued to 45 Newton meters, and the top bolt just hand tightened pretty much as hard as I can with some thread locker on it. It's supposed to be 55 Newton meters, but yeah, whatever. Just use a bit of thread locker and get it. It feels like about 50-ish at the moment, so it should be all right. Yeah, cool. So we've done that. Now we're going to move on to pulling the valve body out of the motor. So team, we've taken the pan off. Made a bit of a mess, unfortunately. We've taken the pan off. We've dropped the filter out. It's in here. We've taken our connector off. This one's only a couple of years old. It was when I did the first round of transmission fluid changes on this car. So I'll probably replace it anyway because they're inexpensive. See how we go. But there's our filter. There's our magnet. If I just grab my torch, as you can see here, there's a little bit of glitter, nothing too bad though. Our magnet's very clean, which is good. I remember pulling a magnet out of a 722.9 once. I think it was my E55 actually on my channel. and it was pretty dirty, eh? It was pretty, like the magnet, you couldn't really see those ribs. It was sort of like real fluffy looking with all the material that built up on it. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's still not spotless. There's definitely still a bit of glitter in there. Yeah, it's probably done 20,000 Ks or so since its last change. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's okay. But this gearbox probably at some stage we'll have to really take it out and rebuild it fully. And that'll be a bit of an experiment for myself to have a go at. But hopefully we can get another good, I don't know, 60,000 Ks out of it maybe, and then we'll give it a refresh. So maybe in 2 or 3 years from now. But yeah, we're going to start with taking off these 4 bolts, and then these, I think 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think now. And then we'll drop the whole body out. But before you do that, obviously make sure you've taken this out, because it attaches to that block. And yeah, cool, so let's continue. So team, we've pulled the valve body out of the 722.6, which is cool, which is exciting. So it was an actual real bitch to get out, excuse the French, because it really was. And the reason being was 2 bolts, 2 of the bolts that hold the valve body in, one rounded out and another one rounded out in a place where I couldn't remove it. So I had to basically drill it out. So that was just absolutely fantastic. It just made my day. So now I'm gonna have to go to a wrecking yard and try and find a car with a 722.6 and extract some of the bolts out of that so I can replace them. Otherwise I'm gonna have to wait 2 weeks probably to get them in from Singapore. So yeah, I was not expecting that to be an issue, but it is what it is. So we've got a new conductor plate, and we're going to replace the one that's here in the car. The one that's in the car here, how old is it? I wonder if it's been replaced before. Where's my torch? Looks pretty yucky. Looks pretty old to me. 07. So it looks like it has had a conductor plate done on it before. 2007, August. Okay, oh that's interesting. So it has had a conductor plate already. Right, wasn't expecting that, but that's good. As I say, this car hasn't been playing up. I haven't had any issues with it, so with the gearbox, so I'm not expecting it to be, I'm not expecting it to be a problem. So we're going to take everything off and start looking at disassembling it all. We just want to keep everything in the right order. So, and they've all got these bolts that flippin', I think, seem to want to. In saying that, the valve body is quite heavy and it's hanging upside down, and the bolts have to hold it in place, whereas these will just be lightly torqued. All these bolts here, I imagine, so it should be easy to get them out. What we're going to do though is, yeah, as I say, I'm just going to lay out a bit of cardboard to put all these parts in, so we don't lose track of what's what. And then we'll continue. Cool. They're pretty tight on their thing. They're not lightly torqued. They are pretty tight. Cool, so we want to keep them in the right order. And just gently slotting out the old, or the current solenoids. Oh, that one's a bit tight. Cool. And then the conductor plate itself should just unclip from go. Perfect. So I want to keep this plate. I don't want to obviously throw it away because it's still actually in working order. Where am I missing here? So I'm just going to put it there for now. So team, the first valve we're going to install today is the TCC damper. So I've got the instructions up on the screen here. This one? Yeah. So it's just on the side here. So 3 bolts, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're just going to crack those off with our little Torx, and we're just going to gently let this pop off, and then we'll replace the retainer ring and the sleeve in there. Yeah, let's do it. So team, we've got the end plate here off the valve body. There's a little bit of spring pressure behind it, so yeah, as I've watched in previous other YouTuber videos, don't just go and like yank it off, because you might lose the actual, you might lose the positioning of these springs and they'll all fly out. But here's our main one we want to pull out, so you want to use like a little pick. I've got some Milwaukee pick tools. You just want to gently bring it out like that. There's the spring for it. And then the valve itself is right back in the valve body here. So just looking at this, I'm actually going to have to open up the whole top here. So we're going to have to take the top off the valve body, and then that'll give us access, because there's a retainer ring basically on the valve here that holds it in place. So we do actually have to remove that. So we do have to take this top plate off so we can actually get to that in order to essentially uninstall those valves fully. Okay, team, so as you saw in the videos, I was just replacing the TCC lockup valve. Quite hard to fit in, had a few issues. It wouldn't seat nicely. The problem with this valve body, which is a good thing, is it's in actually really good condition. There's very little wear on the bores inside the valve body. So it actually made it hard to put the TCC lockup valve in. So I actually probably regret putting that in now. I should have just left it. The factory one was in pretty mint condition. There was nothing really wrong with it, to be honest. So I should have just left it. But anyway, I've done it anyway, so it's in there now. But basically what I can tell is it creates, it basically fills in the existing bore. Yes, these are the current one that came out of it. And there's like no gouging or scoring on it, so it's like mint. We'll keep that anyway. But it creates a new valve, like a smaller one. And you then put a smaller one of those in it, and a smaller spring, like a less heavy duty spring. So I guess it's like replacing that with a slightly smaller valve from the Sonax kit. The shift bushings themselves, again, this car has very clean, what I'd call pretty clean existing factory stock ones. There's still marring on them, but nothing major. nothing major at all really, but they went in nicer, they were easy to install. So I torqued those T20s to, I think it was 5 inch pounds of torque, so quite a lot less torque, so just very light. And then these ones on the top here, these little T30s are 8 Newton meters. So we've got everything tidy now, and I'm gonna start putting everything back together. I just want to try and see if I can possibly clean all this gunk off. There's quite a lot of it on the top here. As you saw, I cleaned the plate between them, so that's good. But I would like to just see if I can spray some brake clean in there and clean it out with some air without having anything fall into these channels, because obviously we're trying to be very clean here. So I've got, you know, garage door closed, and I've got new gloves every 5 minutes, and I'm not using any rags, but I just don't like all this dirt on here. So I'm thinking if we sort of tip it up, if I tip it up on its side and then spray it and let it run down, that might help. But then also I look at it and I think there's still all these little ports here everywhere. So maybe unless you tipped it upside down, there's probably no actual way to do it. So I don't know. As long as these are clean, we'll make sure these are all cleaned out. That's the main thing in that sense, in that regard. But yeah, we'll get that back together and we'll start installing the new conductor plate that we've got over here as well. So then we're just putting the exhaust back in. So I've got the front exhausts in now, as you saw, and we just want to make sure we do up our catalytic converter connections. So I might just spray these with some more electrical cleaner first, and then we're just going to plug them in, routing them through their little clips here that I've reinstalled. So just go through there like that. And yeah, I do have one that's loose here though that I just need to tighten up before I actually put it back in, because it was originally behind the cooler line here, but we've changed that now just because it was a bit hard to get out originally. So we'll just do whatever this thing likes. Cool. So our left catalytic converter downstream O2 sensor, again that one goes under there like that, and then it just clips back into the hole. I'll just grab some electrical cleaner. Cool. Same time, we'd also just want to make sure our exhaust connections are tight. Make sure the flanges are tight. Cool. And then finally, just making sure the retainers on each side, on each bank, are tightened up as well. But I'll probably leave those until we put the rear exhaust in fully. So we'll leave the them until the rear exhaust is in fully, but yeah, the meantime these can go in and go into place. Just clip in to their respective plugs like that. And I'll just tighten that one up and then we're ready to go, and the front of the exhaust is done. So team, the valve body is back in place, carefully installed around the selector as well, and we've torqued it down to 8 Newton meters. We're going to put our filter in, our pan back in, and torque the bolts to 8 with a new gasket, and then we're good to fill it up and start giving it a run. I'm out of video on my phone, so we're just going to wrap this project up here, put the exhaust back in, and see how much I can film of it. But otherwise, let's get to doing a test drive with the car finally finished on its feet again. Let's go. So team, exhaust system is in place, back in the car, joined at the middle here, ready to go. All the bracketry, we've checked the torque on this, the cross member, the trans mount, and yeah, everything's installed, ready to go. So now the final job is just doing the SBC brake bleed, and then we can finally take it for a drive. Let's go. Okay team, let's start her up. Overall, the project went really well, team. We got the car back together, it's running perfectly now. The transmission shifts very smoothly. Another thing is I'll post a video soon with a TCU tune that I've got on, but transmission smooth as, runs real well. I didn't actually reset the adaptions, I just left it as it was. We refilled it up. There's still a teeny bit of oil residue that I believe was there before we did the rear main seal, so I'm hoping it's not leaking again. But other than that, it seems to be all in perfect working order. So we've done the transmission, we've done the rear main seal, and what's next? It's the TCU tune, so stay tuned for that video, and like and subscribe.